All right, we're following some breaking news. News Chopper 4 over the pursuit of a stolen vehicle. Eliana Moreno live for us in News Chopper 4. What can you tell us, Eliana?
Hey there, Michael. We're trying to get over this pursuit. We're waiting for Van Nuys Airport to let us in, but I can tell you that this is a police pursuit of a stolen car. This is a chase that started just a few minutes ago in the West Valley section of the city, and so these are LAPD officers that are in pursuit of it's a white vehicle. I didn't get a chance to really look at it close enough to figure out what type of car it is, but it's a mini SUV type car, white in color, darkly tinted windows, unknown number of occupants at this point, but continuing on surface streets in the area of Van Nuys Airport, just on the west side of the airport. There are a few units directly behind him, as well as the airship overhead.
Eliana, do we know anything about the driver?
Directly behind him, as well as the airship overhead.
Eliana, do we know anything about the driver, of any passengers inside that car?
At this point, unknown. We only know that this is coming back as a stolen car. They actually followed it for quite a while before they attempted to pull it over, and they waited for the right number of units to get behind it, which was approximately 4 of them, before they even tried to pull this driver over. But then he took off, and you can see that it's been a very dangerous chase ever since. I can see that the driver has his or her window down, looks like maybe wearing a red baseball cap, but I can't quite see if he has a passenger, but a smaller type car, maybe a two-door from what I can tell. And this, again, is the LAPD's West Valley division that is in pursuit.
You know, well, during that spat of traffic that we saw, I saw LAPD cruisers closely behind. Where are they in proximity to the car now?
So right now we're on Satacor. You saw those units that you were just mentioning there, Michael. They're not right on his tail. They're giving him a little bit in the way of room, but we are getting very close to Van Nuys Airport. You saw the plane there. There's another one there. So he might end up driving himself into a dead end if he continues. But at this point, the airship is still calling it out. Of course, this is a difficult area for us to fly in, being so close to the airport. But he is really flying here on surface streets adjacent to Van Nuys Airport.
Yeah, going 70 miles per hour at times. A very dangerous situation here. This is an area where we have a little bit of everything, right, Eliana? Some houses, some businesses.
Yeah, lots of commercial businesses, and I have a feeling he's going to drive himself into a dead end if he's not too familiar with this area. But he's coming right at us right now. This might be my chance to get a little bit closer of a look on this car. But perhaps some sort of a Toyota potentially, but what looks to be a smaller car with what looks to be a male driver right next to Van Nuys Airport, just on the west end of the airport.
We talked about the at least 4 units here behind on the ground. We have the airship overhead here, Eliana. Again, traffic heavy in some spots, not at least right now where we are. You speak of a lot of dead ends. This is a heavily commercialized area of Van Nuys, and of course with the airport and such.
Yeah, everything around the airport is highly commercial, so thankfully we won't be in a small residential area. But these are very busy streets. We're out on Balboa Boulevard now as the pursuit goes right under us, and I didn't see any units directly behind him, but I could kind of see the glimmer there of the black and whites as they were approaching the scene. So through Strather now, still right next to Van Nuys Airport, always a highly congested area. And this person has been running red lights, as you just saw right there. And here's a unit, finally right on his tail here as he comes up to some heavy traffic, coming up to Roscoe Center Lane here, trying to get by some of the slower moving traffic as he continues northbound here. Going to be going on the wrong side of the road here for just a second and avoids colliding with anyone and anything. But there you go. There's a look at the driver, and it does look like he is wearing a dark colored top with a red baseball cap, and I don't see anybody else in there with him, so I think this guy might be alone.
You know, Eliana, we saw some of the cars pull over. Perhaps that was because of the lights and sirens of the officer in pursuit here. This isn't what we saw during the 3 o'clock chase today. With the ground units that actually pulled back, weren't even visible. Again, high speeds, 55, 56 miles per hour here on city streets with the LAPD in pursuit.
Yeah, this has been a really dangerous one, and you referenced the pursuit we covered earlier today, also highly dangerous, and it wasn't far from where we're at now.
Right.
So 2 police pursuits now today in the San Fernando Valley, and this one, just like the one earlier, also a stolen car and also high speeds here through surface streets. And we're trying to get a little bit closer again. We're right next to Van Nuys Airport, which does make it a little bit more difficult for us, but this guy is really pushing the pedal here as he continues westbound on Roscoe through Zelza.
Can you give us an idea of, Eliana, of what's ahead here? We're seeing like traffic in certain areas, little pockets here.
Oof.
Yeah, lots of traffic here on a lot of these major streets here, Annabelle. A lot of people will take some of these major streets, of course, as alternates to either the 101 or 405 freeways here through the San Fernando Valley, which, of course, always highly congested at 5 o'clock on a Thursday. It's usually the busiest commute home day, Thursdays, followed only by Fridays. And so this guy is going to be encountering a lot of traffic here as he makes his way on Roscoe. You see some of that traffic there now. And I really have to just hop up ahead because he is not even staying in the correct lanes. He's using the right lanes or the wrong lane to get by here. Coming up to a very busy intersection. I'm going to widen out. And he just made that that turn. I believe this is him. Hard to tell. But yeah, that's him. He slowed down a little bit, so I think that's him. They said he went southbound on Roscoe, but this person's driving a lot slower. It doesn't seem like it's the same driving pattern. So I'm just going to stay kind of loose on it here while I wait and confirm that this is him.
Any units behind? I'm not seeing any.
Yeah, yeah. So just past that car, yeah. So there was another car that looked just like it as he is traveling southbound here on Strathern and Reseda. Here's the units, but I just heard them say that he's a little bit further south. So I'm going to hop up ahead. He's up ahead here. Southbound Reseda still through Arminta.
We see the sun gun there from the airship. Again, this might be him here, just based solely on speeds. It's a little more difficult at night to track versus during the day. But we saw those LAPD units in close pursuit, at least 2 of them. We saw the sun gun there from the airship. As we, again, travel through the San Fernando Valley. Eliana, if we can get our coordinates here once again, where are we?
Yeah, we're, as you said, still in the San Fernando Valley. We're just kind of between Lake Balboa and Winnetka, and we are on, this is going to be Saticoy. So that now he's headed westbound here on Saticoy, still at very high speeds. Thankfully, he got the green light there. So he's still about freeway speeds here on surface streets here through the San Fernando Valley.
All right, and this is a pursuit that started, for anybody who's just joining us, it is 5:20. This is a pursuit that started around 5 o'clock in the West Valley area, and police, LAPD, is after that stolen white mini SUV is what it looks like, driving at high rates of speed there. At some points, we've seen him drive 70 miles per hour. Not sure if this driver has any weapons or if there's a passenger inside this car, but look at how reckless this driver is just going about these streets.
Yeah, pretty reckless and hard to keep up with at these high speeds, and he's really using any lane he has to try to dodge the authorities. At this point, he doesn't have anyone directly behind him. It's just airship only. There are units in the general area, but no one right on his tail to hopefully get him to drive a little bit more calmly. But surveillance mode on this person is simply not working. He's still driving pretty erratically here through the streets of the San Fernando Valley. He's entering the area of Winnetka, straight across a major street there, and he's in a residential area now, just off of Calvin. So that's always concerning at this time of the night. You do have people that are out and about going, just going home, and so you do possibly have the possibility of having some pedestrian traffic through some of these smaller residential streets, like that guy right there, who nearly got hit. But wow, that was scary. Right on Bonnie Place, nearly hit that pedestrian. Thankfully, he did not, and he's continuing on.
Okay, so just to be clear, are LAPD units still behind? Because as we talked about during the 3 o'clock show, during that chase, I mean, typically when you're in surveillance mode, it sort of lessens the anxiety of this driver. You still have eyes on him, but still, it doesn't seem to be the case again here.
I do see the glimmer of the lights from those units, Michael, but they're not right on his tail.
Right.
So they are in the general area, but they are trying to give him a little bit of breathing room, hoping that by him not seeing them in his rearview mirror, that he'll drive a little bit more calmly. But that is simply not working at this point. This driving is as erratic as it could possibly be here, as he just continues through Hart here on Sylvia Avenue.
Eliana, does the airship...
Your side, George, 2 o'clock.
Does the
Your side,
LAPD
2 o'clock.
airship have the light over it?
At this point, he doesn't. He did at the beginning of this pursuit. He did have it on the unit or on the suspect vehicle initially. But part of surveillance mode sometimes does mean that the airship also keeps his night sun off, because with that night sun shining on the vehicle, the suspect knows he's being followed. He can see the light. So by him turning the light off, they think that perhaps he will think he is no longer being pursued, and he'll start to drive a little bit more calmly. So that is why at this point, even though the airship is overhead, we don't see that night sun above.
All right, so if you're just joining us here, this white mini SUV being pursued by the LAPD. Don't know too much about it. It was a stolen car out of the West Valley, from what we understand. We've seen some pretty erratic driving here, top speeds here on city streets. Not sure how many people are in that car with the driver, if any. 4 units were behind this white mini SUV. Again, the airship overhead. And you would think perhaps with units not directly behind this driver, things would sort of calm down a bit. But we've seen things sort of ratchet up here in terms of speed and method of driving, if you will.
Yeah, and you know, and we saw how close he was to hitting a pedestrian.
Right.
You know, it's a dangerous situation here for so many people who live or drive, trying to get home in the San Fernando Valley. Eliana, if you can please just give us just an idea as to what street this driver's on right now.
So he's in the area of Corbin and Sylvan Street. Those are going to be the majors. He is slowing down here just a little bit as he heads southbound toward the 101 freeway. So if he has any intention of getting on the freeway, the 101 is going to be the closest. But he just made a left-hand turn there, which is going to parallel the 101 freeway. So he's still in the general area. He has that option. But then heading in this direction, he could also take this all the way down to the 405 if he wants to get on the freeway. But for now, he seems pretty content here on surface streets. This is going to be on Tampa Avenue, paralleling the busway here in the San Fernando Valley, just north of the 101 freeway near the Warner Center.
Eliana, while we have it, can you talk about some of the methods, some of the tools that the LAPD has in its tool chest to sort of bring this pursuit to a stop? Obviously, we speak of pit maneuvers, we speak of spike strips.
Correct, yeah, and at these speeds, pit maneuver is going to be pretty difficult. Normally, they would want the speeds to be about 35 miles an hour and have it be on a nice wide open street where nobody else is going to get potentially hit when the vehicle does get pitted. So at this point, the speeds are a little bit too fast. Nearly hit that Cybertruck. Speeds are a little bit too fast here for a pit, but they could try spike strips if they could just figure out some sort of pattern to his driving. But he's getting on the 101. We're going to be going northbound on the 101 freeway here from Tampa Avenue.
All right, so now that this driver is on the 101 freeway, let's talk about the game plan here. I mean, you've interviewed so many of these officers, Eliana. You've covered endless of these pursuits. You know, what are they thinking? How do they get ahead of this?
At this point, they would like to try to figure out as much information that they can about this suspect, but it's always difficult when it's a stolen car because running any sort of plate information on the vehicle is only going to lead them back to the registered owner, not the person who stole it. So for that reason, it makes it really difficult to know who they're chasing unless the vehicle was stolen by somebody that the victim knew. So at this point, they're just trying to get as much information as they can about this person, which in all likelihood is going to be very little. And all they can really do is just try to, at this point, track him from the helicopter and then keep those units in the general area for whenever this guy runs out of gas or he crashes or he simply decides to pull over somewhere.
Okay, if you can give us a location. We know we got on the 101 at Tampa. Where are we now, Eliana?
We are 101 at Winnetka Avenue. So we're headed northbound or westbound, depending on how you look at it here, on the 101 freeway.
So are we heading towards like Ventura County now?
Correct, yeah. So now we're heading toward the west end of the San Fernando Valley, headed toward Ventura County, but we might be exiting here. It looks like you made that last move there to exit here at, I believe this is going to be Winnetka, so we'll see what way he goes here when he gets to the end of the off-ramp.
And as we saw, I keep bringing up the chase from earlier here today. As soon as it hit the freeways, they were calling in the CHP. That would have been the case had he stayed on the 101 freeway. But back on city streets, this again, LAPD's jurisdiction.
Northbound, George. Yeah, LAPD's jurisdiction. He just exited DeSoto. He's going northbound. And you were mentioning, Michael, the CHP. Had he stayed on the freeway, then that would have been the perfect time to try to get them involved. But he literally only stayed on for about an exit or two and is now back on surface streets here. Still in the San Fernando Valley on the west end of it, which is still going to be LAPD's jurisdiction. So we're looking at areas like Topanga division of the LAPD. So if they're going to get any units behind it, it would likely be those guys, or even West Valley, which was the originating agency, which isn't far from here either. But at this point, airship only, and the ground units loosely in the area.
The Westfield Topanga Mall is around there. You know, the Costco's around there. I mean, there are so many businesses, so many people that travel around there. I'm just holding my breath, and I know you are too, Michael. We've seen so many close calls. The traffic, just, you know, this driver is relentless. He's really just trying to get in wherever he can.
Yeah, and my pilot, George Marcineau, is telling me that the LAPD airship is pulling off. So at this point, there's no airship on it, and there's no ground units behind it. So there's no one following this individual at this point. It's very similar to what we saw earlier, where the ground units as well as the airship had pulled off of that earlier chase that we were on. And after a few minutes, then a different division of the LAPD took over the pursuit, and eventually that did end up with the arrest of 3 individuals at the termination. For now, though, no one behind this guy and no airship overhead. I do see that unit that was behind it had its lights off, so it wasn't following him. But you see him slowing down a lot. So surveillance mode didn't seem to be working on this guy earlier. Right now, just him not seeing the airship and not seeing any units behind him has slowed him down significantly. This is the slowest I've seen him go during the course of this pursuit, less than 20 miles an hour.
All right, Eliana, we would remind our viewers, we are giving you breaking news here at 5:30. This is the NBC4 News at 5 o'clock. The LAPD at least was in pursuit of a stolen vehicle out of the West Valley. As Eliana mentioned,
to the other side.
Surveillance mode wasn't working. The airship is pulled off as of yet. But again, this is a stolen white SUV. Dark tinted windows. Not sure how many people are inside with that driver, but at one time, 4 ground units in pursuit of this car here.
We saw so many close calls in which one pedestrian was almost hit. Vehicles were almost hit. This driver has been relentless, just weaving in and out of traffic. I'm sure you've been seeing this at home as well with us. I mean, holding our breath at so many times.
Yeah, Eliana Moreno live for us in News Shot before. Can you tell us where we are now? We believe we saw that car pull into this driveway, this parking lot here. Name of the business?
Yeah, so this is a large apartment building, and now we're going to try to find this individual because we're hearing that he parked the car. We see the car there, and then he jumped the fence and he took off running. So he's somewhere within this large apartment building. We didn't see it happen because of the building that was in the way, but we know that he hopped over this wall and then took off running. So he's running somewhere now between these large apartment buildings, very large buildings in the area of Oxnard Street. And again, the airship had pulled off. So at this point, there's no airship overhead to be able to guide some of these ground units to this suspect's location. And you can see that this is a very large area for them to search. So we know that he ran somewhere near this apartment complex, likely into this apartment building. And you see that parking structure below. And it appears that that is where he ran into after he hopped that fence. So again, this is going to be a very difficult search here for officers, considering that they weren't right on his tail, and the airship had already pulled off as well. But if you are in the area, this is just off of Varial and Oxnard here on the west end of the San Fernando Valley near the Warner Center.
Yeah, so let's talk about the game plan,
Eliana.
Are they going to set up a perimeter here? I mean, what will they do to try to get this person?
At this point, it's a little bit difficult considering that there weren't any units directly behind him. But what they will be able to use, even if this guy is able to get away today, they likely will have a lot of surveillance camera footage from these modern apartment buildings. So they can always turn to that to try to identify this individual. Of course, the car is still there. I see it in the parking lot. So they'll be able to run it for any type of forensic identifying information like fingerprints and DNA, of course. But we are hearing that he's still somewhere within one of these two large apartment buildings. In all likelihood, this one, somewhere near the pool area.
Yeah, that's a massive complex. But Eliana, in situations like this in the past, when the airship was pulled off, ground units are nowhere to be found. Haven't they used media live shots to figure out exactly the location? Perhaps they'll use what we're providing on the air as a way to get to this location?
Yeah, correct. They can use our video for reference to see where was the last spot where he was spotted. And from what we're hearing, it was somewhere near this pool area, very large apartment complex with underground parking below. You can just see it there. So he parked on the north side of the building, jumped the fence, and then ended up somewhere over here. Now, there's got to be hundreds of apartment units within this large complex. So if he knew somebody who lived here, he's likely already inside. The question is this a place he really didn't know and just happened to end up here, dead end, left the car and decided to take off running? And could he get into one of these units with an unsuspecting person inside? That, of course, is definitely something that the LAPD is going to have to be able to contend with as they send their officers over here to try to locate this individual.
All right, so Eliana Moreno live for us at News Show before. Apparently this guy ditched the car, jumped over a fence here, landed in the pool area of this apartment complex near Oxnard, near the Warner Center. Of course, we'll have much more coming up on the later editions of the NBC4 News.